What strange things have your pets brought home? Maybe clothing, some old toys, an old shoe, some socks perhaps? But have they ever brought home a human arm? Have you heard about the case about Jeannette DePalma? Checking out thedailybeast.com, a shocking series of events led to the discovery of Jeannette DePalma's body in the woods where it had been left to rot. The teen's suspected murderer remains shrouded in mystery 50 years later. It takes a special person to commit a murder. On September 19th, 1972, a dog returned from a frolic in a wooded area with an object in its mouth and started playing with it on the lawn of a nearby apartment building in Springfield, New Jersey. Moments later, the pet owners went to inspect what appeared to be a large bone and screamed when she realized it was a human arm. The Springfield Police Department was called to the scene, and attending officers later recounted what they saw upon arriving at a woman's home. Unfortunately, I am so squeamish, so if I ever witness something like that my dog, or even if just like suddenly in the forest I came across such like a body, I would probably faint. I can't imagine coming across something like that in your own yard. I would feel like I'd committed the murder even though I hadn't. You would look so guilty. She took me to the rear door of her apartment, and in a bluish bag she handed me the arm of the female. Officer J. Schvert said in the report. The lower left arm on the fingernails was a whitish nail polish. How unfortunate. You get your nails done and then next thing you know you're unalived. Search parties then scoured the Howdale quarry behind the residential building. It wasn't long before they stumbled across an upper arm bone and then the rest of the corpse face down and fully clothed in a small clearing on top of a steep hill. Around the body were logs across the head, down the right side, and a small branch under both feet. I'm just going to call him S. Officer S. stated in the report. Chief Medical Examiner Bernard Ehrenberg was also called to the scene, where he pronounced the girl, who was unidentified at the time, deceased. Detailed records later confirmed that the body belonged to a 16-year-old local high school student, Jeannette DePalma, who had been reported missing by her mother 6 weeks earlier. I'm a mother, and when my child gets older, I know I might be considered like the helicopter parent, but I'm gonna, after hearing about all these cases, I just can't, I'm gonna know your location at all times. I won't bother you. You can go out and have fun with your friends and, but I'm gonna know where you are at all times. She was found lying face down with a rock formation surrounding her body, Ehrenberg wrote in his medical examiner's report. He determined that an autopsy could not be performed because of the marked state of decomposition. For this same reason, a cause of death could not be determined, so was listed as suspicious rather than an homicide. Unfortunately, I don't think she's going to be able to do it to herself. A skeletal examination and x-rays showed that the body revealed no evidence of bullet holes, fractures, or traumatic injury, according to the report. A skeletal examination and x-rays showed that the body revealed no evidence of bullet holes, fractures, or traumatic injury, according to the report. The case remains unsolved today. I heard in another report that I was reading that they found a vial of unidentified liquid. Just because she doesn't have any visible injuries does not mean that she wasn't drugged, or there's lots of things that can make someone go to sleep. But one theory that dominated initial media coverage has lingered for decades after rumors circulated that DePalma's body was found surrounded by sticks that had been formed into the outline of crosses and coffin, as well as I heard that her purse and her she was wearing a necklace at the time, which was never found. News headlines about the investigation into DePalma's death screamed, "Murder Probe sheds light on witchcraft cult," and "Jersey Murder Probe throws light on witchcraft." The Associated Press reported at the time that authorities said Jeannette's death may be linked to a coven or witchcraft assembly thought to exist in the area. Then Springfield Police Chief George Parcell was quoted in the article as saying, "I heard that some people from the department supposedly brought a witch out there to help with the investigation, but I know nothing about it," he said. Knows nothing about it, he said. There were also reports of devil worship, with locals sharing stories about children holding seances. To be fair, I mean, we've all been children before, and we've all done crazy things. I remember dancing in circles thinking I was summoning things when I was little, trying to be fun and stuff. So I mean, that's just children's imagination, in my opinion. But praying to Satan and sacrificing chickens, pigeons, and occasionally a goat in the park around the nearby Watchung Reservation. And then there was the name of the cliff where DePalma's body was found. Devil's Teeth. The whole causation doesn't, or no. The whole correlation doesn't really necessarily mean causation, as the old saying goes, so it's that was just a coincidence. It was just a coincidence. Reverend James Tate, the pastor of the church DePalma attended, told reporters he believed Satanists captured and killed the teen because of her faith. I'm not a spiritual person myself, but I am open to many things. I would like to hope there's an afterlife. I don't want to do all of this and then it be for naught. But certain religious folk sometimes put the fear of God into everyone so much that everything can be blamed on the devil. The devil did it. I don't know. He's not necessarily wrong, because there are people out there, extremists, that take it too far. He claimed that she had tried to lecture devil worshippers about Christ. His theory was based on no more than a personal belief. However, it's one that has been shared by many others too. I understand sometimes when people are pushing their religion or non-religion down your throat, you can retaliate, but it can be annoying, but I can't imagine taking someone's life over just discussion and debates. Edward Salzano, now 59, grew up around Springfield and also believes in an evil group of Satanists killed Jeannette. Salzano was a close friend of DePalma's nephew, John Blancy, who lived with his aunt at the time of her death. According to Freedom of Information documents obtained by the Daily Beast, he said the pair took it upon themselves to try and solve the case when it appeared police had reached a dead end. There are too many cold cases out there. The police need help. Blancy died about 4 years ago, which made Salzano even more determined to uncover the truth about what really happened to DePalma, despite having never met her. That's so sad. In an interview with the Daily Beast, Salzano said he had spoken to many of DePalma's friends, family members, and acquaintances as part of his independent investigation into her death over the last 8 years, and according to him, there is one common thread. They're all scared to death, he said. Of what, he says, he doesn't know, but Salzano insisted there's a gigantic cover-up and that almost everyone he has spoken to without knowledge about the case or DePalma shares his belief that a satanic cult targeted Jeannette and killed her. He said DePalma was a devoted Christian who would preach to the other people about leaving Satanism and witchcraft behind. He believes this made her a target, even as an unverified theory about the timing of DePalma's death. The lore is there, he said. They wanted to kill someone and a child for Halloween, and that's what they did. Salzano also claimed he developed a relationship with the last person to see DePalma alive, one of her girlfriends who has since died, and who he believes was involved in the cult, and possibly her friend's death. Can you imagine being friends with someone ultimately the one resulting in your death? She would call me in the middle of the night, he said. One thing she never stopped talking about was a satanic cult Jeannette was set up. You know the saying, if you go looking for it, you'll find it? Maybe Jeannette was interested in that sort of thing and she was too afraid to admit it. For years, rumors swirled around Springfield about other possible suspects. A transient who worked nearby, a watchman, a guy who drove a red Ford, among others, but police couldn't find anything to connect these people to the crime. A serial killer was suspected. They suspected that she was a victim of a serial killer by comparing 4 other murders in the area. Ultimately, they had no similarities. From my understanding, they didn't even do any drug testing on her, so they weren't able to investigate into the possibility of a drug overdose, or suicide, although I feel like there would have been normally from what I've read and heard, normally people who decide to take their own life leave their things, like a will, but not necessarily written down, and sometimes they do leave letters and stuff, so I don't think there was a suicide. It was a suicide attempt to take her own life. The case eventually dried up, and the case went cold, until a letter to the editors of Weird New Jersey, a magazine devoted to local folklore and legends, revived interest in DePalma's death in 1997. It just takes people to talk about it and then gain interest, and then boom, it's solved. Then in 2015, authors Jesse P. Pollock and Mark Morin released a book on the case, Death on the Devil's Teeth, the strange murder that shocked suburban New Jersey, and presented theories, but no concrete answers about what happened to DePalma. Especially, I read another article that a lot of the case files had been like lost due to a flooding to the police station, which lost, but I mean, who really knows? In 2019, the writers obtained a case file with photos of a body. In 2019, the writers obtained a case file with photos of the body, which cast doubt on the cult theory. An expert in satanic imagery said that the arrangements of the rock, sticks, and logs appeared to be naturally placed and not the work of devil worshippers. Can you imagine? Like, I also heard that it was exaggerated and they just blamed it on a cult. Maybe the pastor was like, it's the cult, because Christian is the only true faith. I mean, it would bring attention to your church. And I guarantee he accepts donations. Springfield Police Chief John Cook told the Daily Beast the case had not received any new evidence. What I can say on this case right now is that it is still an active case of suspicious death, as there has not been any evidence of yet to be able to officially rule it a homicide. What I can say on this case right now is that it is still an active case of suspicious death, as there has not been any evidence as of yet to be able to officially rule it a homicide. Or, in my opinion, they don't have enough evidence to continue it further, so if they deem it a homicide, then they'll have to do investigations and they'll actually have to gather evidence, because if they just rule it, well, we don't know what happened, then they probably can just scrap it in the old warehouse or whatever and be like, it's just a cold case. It was probably just homicide. Salazno, sorry if I'm pronouncing that completely incorrectly, who unsuccessfully sued the Union County Prosecutor's Office in hopes of compelling the agency to test DePalma's clothing and fingernail scrapings for DNA, believes there's only one way to get to the bottom of who killed DePalma, and they should have done that right when they found the body. They should have taken every screening possible to them. We need to establish a cause of death by making the x-rays public, and advanced DNA testing needs to be done. That should have been done as soon as it was available. That is so infuriating. We've heard everything about how she died, from strangulation to being shot with an arrow to being bashed to the head, even though they did an examination that declared that was not the case. An independent body other than the county's office needs to go over it, which I totally agree. It could be a cover-up. You never know. Today, a Facebook page, Justice for Jeannette DePalma, is ran by Salazno, and his partner is dedicated to keeping her memory alive and seeking answers. The major reason her murder cannot be investigated and solved is there is no determinant of death. This horrible murder will never be solved until the first step is taken. Springfield Deputy Mayor Chris Weber, who is also retired network police officer and detective, said he's spoken with the Springfield Police Chief Cook about taking another look into DePalma's case. According to Weber, Cook was receptive and wants this case solved also, especially if it's a murderer going around. A set of new eyes and a fresh perspective always helps. I don't think this was a perfect crime. Somewhere, something, some connection is out there waiting to be found, and that will be the break in this case. Weber said there is still interest among locals to find answers to what happened in DePalma. Over the past few years of being a township official, I have had several people ask me about the case, Weber said. They always have interest in it, or they have a remembrance of the time it happened and some of the stories they heard over the years. I believe any law enforcement officer would have the same desire to be able to have a case as important as this one finally solved. That's why we become cops. Have you heard about this case? What are your opinions on what happened? Have I missed anything in my research? Leave a comment down below. Isn't it a shame when relatives of the deceased member have to do the investigation themselves because the police don't seem motivated enough to solve their family member's death? It's unfortunate. Every case should be held to the utmost importance, as if the president was killed. What do you think happened to Jeannette? How do you feel about this sort of content? Is it something that you'd want to watch further? I know today's topic was kind of heavy, but I think more eyes on this case, maybe one day it'll be solved for the family's sake. That's everything today. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Bye.